Hello everyone and welcome to my series Intro to CAD Design. There have been some things that I have skipped over intentionally because those things are going to be better received when we go through the curves, surfaces, solids, tools, gems, settings, etc. And so I can show you how they are used. So today is a day that we're going to start with the curve. So up at the very top of your viewport, you will see some different menus: curve, surface, solid, tools, gems, etc. And here are all of the curves right below those menus. And there are quite a bit to go over. We're going to see how far we can get. So as we go through the curve menu, I want to implement some of our quick commands and the commands on the bottom that toggle on and off, so that you can get used to using those as well, because it's very much an integrated experience. Okay, so let's start with curve, and I am going to bring a couple curves out. I just put on my white, my bright white, because that shows up really well on the black. And I'm just gonna, let's see, put a few of these curves out. Now before I get into the curve menu, I want to discuss on the very bottom below your viewport. We talked about the grid snaps and the O snaps on the last video. I did not talk about a couple other things that we use all the time, and I want to do that today because we will be using those. If you notice on the very end, it says gumball and record history. Record history is almost always on because you want to be able to mirror something and then only move the one item and have the other item follow along with it. And I will show you what I mean by that. Gumball is something that you've probably seen in other videos. I am going to select my straight curve, and a bunch of toggles come on and this arc, and the toggles allow you to drag the curve and to move it and to also rotate it. See? There we go. And you don't have to be right on top of the curve, and that is an advantage sometimes when everything in the design is extremely tight, and it's better to be able to kind of be away from the center of the design a little bit. So I'm just going to move that a little bit more towards F4. Okay, and that's gumball. And then record history. Let's use one of our little icons and commands from our quick command box called mirror. And I'm going to select, I'll start over. I'm going to select the line, go up to mirror, click on mirror. Then I want to follow what it says down in the start of the mirror plane, and that would be F4, because I want it centered on the center of my CAD universe, which is F4. If you hit Shift, it will snap into place, and then you just click to stop the command. So this is great. So now I have this curve that was mirrored by this is the original on the left. So if I move the original, you will see that the copy follows the original. All right, so now we have a little bit of a setup. I can do offset curve, and I'm going to select, oh, that one. I think these got out of order. Offset curve is, this one is, oh, I'm going to set this up again. View, reset window. Okay. All right. Where did my offset go? There it is. Yep, it got all moved around. Sorry. All right, sometimes that happens and it just kind of distracted me, so I had to fix it. Okay, offset. We'll do offset first. What you want to do is click offset, select a curve because that's what it tells you in your command line. So I'm going to select this curve, and I can use these toggles to offset it and to see what distance it is. Now if I hold shift, it will offset it every 0.5. So there we go, there's 0.5. That's interesting. Oh, I've not used this offset curve before. So we've talked about this briefly, but Matrix is a plugin to Rhino, and Rhino has some basic commands. So one of the basic commands in Rhino is offset. So if you, and I'm going to turn the gumball off because it's a very distracting tool. If I select this and type in offset, press enter, I can type in the amount. Right now it's at 1. I'll type in 0.5, and I can click and I can do one side, or I can do both sides. I'm going to undo, or I could do a cap, a round cap, no cap, or a flat cap. So there is, I'm going to make that a different color. There's my original curve, and here's my offset curve. I am going to duplicate this. So we're going to go up to our quick commands and duplicate. Here we go. And now let's try this with the Matrix dynamic command. If there is a little lightning bolt in the corner of your command, that means that it is a dynamic command, and you will be able to adjust that even after you've made it into a solid and such. So there is some benefit to that. So let's try this one. Offset, select curve, and this says 1 millimeter. Let's do 0.5 like we did before. Okay. I don't see where, oh, I'm not over here. It is a dynamic command. Okay, so when you have a dynamic command, you do have your panel over on the right hand side. It shows the dynamic commands. It shows all of what is possible. You can do a short, sharp corner style, a rounded corner style, but I'm failing to see where it is allowing me to do both sides. Okay, so what I will do is I will offset again. This one's not working for me. All right. If you guys have used this successfully, let me know. I just want to remind everybody I'm new to Matrix Gold. I do custom work, so it's basically one-offs. I don't do production work anymore, so I don't need things like the dynamic commands are great, and I do use some of them, but in this instance you can see either A, I don't know how to use it effectively, which is quite possible, and it's definitely not intuitive. I didn't see anywhere where it said to put on both sides. But when I used this one, let me duplicate that. I'll go back over that again. I selected it, I typed in offset, clicked on it, and then I got to select one side or two. Your cap will default to the last thing you selected. So if I change that cap to a flat cap, or if I change that to none, it automatically only offsets on one side. So if you want both sides, you have to punch that in. And there you go. It's very easy. So we will have to see about this. As I go along, I'm going to learn more and more about the dynamic commands and the parametric design. All right, let's go ahead and job bag these. We're going to get lots of practice today. And it's really great if you can open up your laptops, follow along, do the things that I'm doing. You will be shocked at how far you can come along and learn things. So all I did to put it in the job bag as a little reminder was I pressed down on this arrow, and now if I want to bring it back into the viewport, I click in the middle of that job bag and they reappear. So it's a great little holding spot if you don't want your viewport to be cluttered, and you also could put them on a different layer and turn that layer off. All right, let's go ahead and put a straight line out here using our grid snaps. I'm going to go down here, turn on my grid snaps, and I can literally put a line right on the grid because it is snapping right to the grid. Okay, now I want to show you guys something. If you look down below here where I clicked on grid snaps, it now is hiding and I can't get to it. So how do I turn it off? You just click on that, the very end of the word, and it will turn it off. I learned that the hard way. I had to call support, and I think it even took us like 5 or 10 minutes, but we got there. So the next one, I am going to make a surface, but because it's in a different menu, we're not going to talk about how I do that right now. We will just do it, and we'll talk about that part later. But I will need to do this. Okay. I'm going to move that to the center. So just to show you one little trick, transform center object, click enter. Now we'll go over more of that in depth, but it's always fun to kind of see what's going on up ahead. All right, what I want to do is I'm going to turn this a different color so you can see it, and there should be a curve. Oh, it's only up on the top. Let's see. I'm going to turn off the blue for now. Where did that curve go? It's on the bottom, sorry. All right, so here is my curve on the bottom. I'm going to select that. I'm going to turn it yellow, and I'm going to make the dark green the default and turn off the white so that it's not in the way. All right, so this is now yellow. You can see, well, you can't see the little pop-up. But when I clicked on it, it wanted to know, do I want to click on the curve or do I want to click on the extrusion, which is the surface? All right, my next command under curve is offset curve on surface. I selected the curve, I hit offset curve on surface, and now it wants me to select the surfaces. So I'll select this and then press enter when done. There we go. Okay, so over here in our dynamic command box, we have our surface in the one box, our curve in the other, and the offset is set at 1. That's the default. And so you can move that right over here. So there we go. And I wonder if you can type it in. So you can click on the box and you can type that in. Let's do 5 millimeters. And how many do you want? I don't know. Let's do 10. Oh, I can't do 10. Let's do 1 millimeter and let's do 10. Nice. That's awesome. offset both sides. Okay, there we go. Very good. So that is offset curve on surface. I actually use that a lot. All right, I am going to hide this and put it on a different color and turn that color off. Bring my other two curves up. Okay, project. This is a good one. I am bringing in a solid, and once again, I will talk about that a little bit more in depth later. But in order to do this particular action in the curve menu, I need a solid. This one is project, and it also is a dynamic command. I need to go to my line and create a line here. I changed the color to a very light turquoise so you can see it. And let's click on that again. Project. Select curves. Press enter when done. Select object to project to. Now, where you're at and what viewport you're in makes a difference. At least it does in the non-dynamic project command. So let's see what happens here. I'm going to select the object, press enter. Oh, I wonder if, okay. Oh, this is a bust. Oh, there it is. Look at that. Oh, you have to press enter twice. Okay, so interesting. So what has happened here is I wanted it to go around, but it went here. So I believe that when I clicked the line or clicked the solid, and I'm not sure which, it activated the top viewport. So this will happen quite often. You have to be very particular. So let's go back and see if we can do that again. Project, select curve, press enter when done, select objects, and press enter. No, I don't know what happened. Oh, evidently I am not being successful at the project. So let me show you how I do it old school. All right. This is how I do it old school. Type in project, select project, select curves and points to project. I select this curve, I press enter when done. I select the surface and I press enter when done. And this is what I wanted the whole time. Now you can see my confusion why it wouldn't work. Let me put that on a different color. So let me just show you what happens when you go up in this viewport. All right, so I'm going to type project. I select the word project. I select the curves, press enter, solid, press enter. And because I did it from the top viewport, that is what happens. Now I am going to turn this another color as well. And we're going to talk a little bit about the history. We haven't talked about that yet. There is a little button here that you can check, record history. When you have that on, which you should have that on all the time, unless you specifically don't need it on. If I were to move this line, curve, it will move my projected curve. Let's rotate it. So I'm going to rotate it. I can snap to the middle if I want. And this curve moved along with it. What if I go and rotate it from the front viewport? There you go. So you can see the changes that it made, and it's very, very practical. Let's say you wanted to have diamonds running in a funny angle there. You can project your curve and then you can put gems on that curve. So there are many reasons to utilize that particular one, project. Okay, now I am going to bring in, see if I can find which one that was. Let's see, did we do a plane offset? I think we did. Show. Oh, I put it in the job bag. All right, we're gonna move this little puppy over and I'm gonna bring these back out. I am gonna show you what I use Rebuild for. So here was my original curve. So if I take that original curve and I come over here to my command, quick commands, and I click on edit points, there's a really small amount of edit points. There's 8, which is really nice. Let's say I delete the last one. There we go. It will change the configuration of the curve. But because it was on history, it will also change the offset curve. Okay, sometimes I don't need, once I get it where I want it, I need to edit this curve, for example. There's sometimes where you have to do that. Potentially you want to make the S a little bit fatter in the middle. If you go to the control points and put that on, there are way too many control points. You try to move one and it makes it really bumpy, right? So, one too many times. So sometimes what I'll do is I will select that curve and I will hit Rebuild. Let's see, point count is 15. Let's change it to 9. And it usually gives you a preview, and I do believe that it, let's see if I got the right one. Yes. So now it is changed to 9 points, and it's much easier to adjust that. Before I adjust it though, we are going to look at this, and I'm going to just try to move that, and look what happens. My rebuilt curve does not come along with the one that is still on history. Okay, I'm going to go back and let's go ahead and put our edit points on in the quick command. And I'm going to make the center of this a little bit wider, and it will tell you that the history has been broken. And yes, we all know that. All right. Now I'm going to rebuild this one, so I select Rebuild. Oh, I'll go ahead and do that up here. Sorry, I'm really I'm very used to typing in some commands. It's just very quick for me. So let's make sure we got the right one. We did, and we're going to just make that a point at the end so I can bring this together. And my O-snaps are not on, but let me tell you what you can do. Okay, if you keep your O-snaps off, you can snap to the end of this curve if you press Alt. Okay, so let's do that again. Take your point, it's not snapping because your O-snaps are off, but if you press, as you go towards it, if you press Alt, it will activate your O-snaps. So that's what I usually do because I end up turning them off. They really get in the way sometimes. And then you just clean it up a little bit. All right, press Escape and then you're good to go. So that's an example of why you would rebuild a curve. I'm going to bring in a ring rail, and ring rails are usually size 7. I don't know why it won't come in. Let's see, where are you? There it is. Okay, I got 2 now. Okay, there's my ring rail, and I'm going to do an outside ring rail. So I'm going to go back to my quick commands. I'm going to right click, and my outside ring rail appears, and that can be adjusted. It also is a dynamic command, so you can select it, go over here to your dynamic command box, outside ring rail, edit, and once you have that edit activated, we can adjust the bottom of the shank, the side of the shank, and the top of the shank. There we go. Now, what I want to show you is one of the places that I use change seam. And I'm going to assume right now that it's just like seam curve. I know that's a big assumption on my part because I've not used this dynamic command. So let's find out. All right, select curve. I'm going to select my outside ring rail. Oh, change seam. Okay, let's just bring it down and see what happens. Okay, it brought it down to the bottom. That's what I like to do. Okay. Let's find out what it says here. Edit, snap on control point, position, change theme. All right, very basic. I'm not sure if it's the same thing, so let's back up because I want to show you what I usually do. So type in curve, CRV, seam. If you forget, you can type in seam and then it'll pop up. And then I select this one and I press enter and I adjust it. We're going to get into why I do this later because there's a couple different reasons. And then you just drag this down to the bottom and I make sure that it's pointed that way. When I am using the command flow, that's when that comes in handy. But that is for a much later video and it can be very confusing, so I will not confuse you with all of that. But that's what you do if you want to change your curve seam. I'm going to turn off the rust color in the layers so that that is not in my way, and I am going to delete these because they are in a job bag, so I have access to them. Okay, now we're at the command blend curves. All right, so these 2 curves, do you remember these? I moved them and this one was on history, so it moved as well. That's the curves. I want to blend the end of this curve and blend it together. Click on blend curve and let's see, select first curve. There we go. Select second curve. All right. Now that looks really wild. So I'm going to go over to my dynamic command box. All right, flip curve. So right now that curve is going inward and I want it to go outward. Flip and flip. Now it wants me to toggle if I want to blend it, and it does give me the millimeter size, so I literally could type in a certain size. Let's type in 2, and that's what 2 looks like. If I want the curve to be asymmetrical, I could type in 1 and 3. Wow, that's crazy. All right, now I could use the toggles all the way back down to 0. And then, let's see. 1. Let's go with 1. That's nice. There we go. Now another option you have is to join the curves. I'm going to say yes on that. Once I join the curves, these curves are not separate anymore. So if I move this, it's no longer on history. Here is the original curves. I'm going to back up. I'm going to once again turn the white off. There we go. And that's what blend curve is all about, and it is very nice, very practical to be able to blend those curves in such a nice way. All right. I think that we are going to stop right there. Probably break it up into 3 videos because honestly, this is like a really important section of building your knowledge. And I want you to go through the video a couple times, get your laptop out, grab a drink, and just play and have fun. And you can do exactly what I did, or you could create your own curves and just practice. Do it like 5 times. And that really helps with your muscle memory, and it helps you to be able to remember it and to understand the program better. So thank you so much for listening, and you're welcome.